Cyclone Narelle on the up again as it harasses the western coast of Australia. Tropical Weather Bulletin for March 25th. Well, around the world right now, it's pretty much as we left it last week. We've had a few days away from the Tropical Weather Bulletin. Not too much has changed. Cyclone Narelle is still prowling across the Australian coastline as we expected it would be, and still a significant threat. Rapid intensification inbound by the looks of things. And Tropical Cyclone 28P was a tropical cyclone for a while past New Caledonia and has now become an extratropical cyclone headed for New Zealand. In the Atlantic, it's 60 days until the hurricane season begins, and no areas of interest that we should be worried about in any way, shape or form. That's how we like it. In the Eastern Pacific, very little going on here either. Just a plume of moisture extending up from the Hawaiian Islands, or just northeast of there, right through to the Pacific Northwest of North America. 52 days until hurricane season begins here. In the Western Pacific, of course, the season can be year-round, and a few little systems down there, but nothing really catching our attention right now. Just some tropical thunderstorms. Guam might be affected by a couple of those right now, and a non-tropical system moving through Japan. In the North Indian Ocean, things are relatively quiet here as well, limited to just a few thunderstorms really in the southernmost part of the Bay of Bengal. A little bit of cloud cover across the Middle Eastern region there as well, but not too much going on in terms of tropical activity. In the Southwest Indian Ocean, there's a few little bits and bobs dotted around the basin, but not too much to talk about in terms of tropical cyclone development anytime soon. Cyclone Narelle, of course, a tropical storm at this point, and there it is, starting to spread out over the Indian Ocean, a large amount of convection on its northern and western side. X28P drifting southwards there, continuing on its way down there, really hasn't moved very much in terms of longitude in the last few days. It's been pretty much a straight arrow southwards towards the pole. So let's check in with Cyclone Narelle right now. We're currently giving it winds near 60 miles per hour sustained and a pressure estimate of 986 millibars, 16.8 degrees south, 118.9 degrees east. There are cyclone warnings all along the coast of Western Australia. It is 69 kilometres from Clerke Reef, 378 from Pardue on the mainland, 395 from Port Hedland, 493 from Karratha and 765 from Exmouth. Currently moving pretty much due west at around 23 kilometers per hour. We do expect substantial strengthening as the storm approaches the coast of Western Australia and rounding that corner near Exmouth, potentially as a Category 4 on the Australian scale. That's the forecast from the Bureau of Meteorology. Cyclone warning for Karratha, Port Hedland and extending over to Mardi. A cyclone watch extending downwards to Cape Cuvier. And this is the trajectory from the model runs. Pretty decent agreement there. Interestingly, the JTWC is on that right-hand side. They're taking it much further inland, and so is the Bureau of Meteorology, which might spare Perth later on. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you're always in touch with the latest tropical cyclone updates, as well as following us on social media. And you can also join our Discord server for tropical weather chat at any time on discord.gg/force13. So let's check in with the latest satellite imagery, and we are watching Cyclone Narelle here on this imagery, and it really is getting very, very bulky on the northern and northwestern side. Tons of energy still in this storm. I suppose it's not much of a surprise given how the storm was performing before it reached the Cape York Peninsula. It obviously struggled through the Gulf of Carpentaria and over the Northern Territory, but now it looks like it is well and truly on its way back. We saw satellite-derived winds earlier, a little bit on the low side. We're giving this a bit of the benefit of time, and that it's probably strengthened a little bit more, up to 60 miles per hour at this point, which is around 95 kilometers per hour sustained. The storm slowly drifting westwards, not too slowly actually. Looks like the centre of the system is moving quite quickly towards the west at the moment, and that will continue, and a gradual bend towards the southwest over the next few days. In terms of cloud cover, not too much over land right now actually. Most of the bulk of this storm is to the centre and to its north, and some massive cloud tops there extending well into the minus 90s, which is quite impressive, although more common in this area. And here is what's left of Cyclone 28P, now an exposed centre. What you can't really see on this satellite imagery is a massive bulk of cloud cover on its southern side, a little bit quite well detached from the centre of this system now, and that's going to be pummeling the coast of New Zealand in the next few hours and the next couple of days, and we could be seeing some substantial winds there for the northern and western coasts of both islands. Around the world, this is how things are looking across the east coast of the United States. A stalling front there, by the looks of things, just about reaching into northern Florida and Georgia. The Caribbean looking relatively quiet, a few thunderstorms potentially between the Cayman Islands, Jamaica and Central America. In the eastern part of the East Pacific, obviously no real signs of tropical development yet, certainly nothing established. Intertropical convergence zone doing its bit down there, but really quite clear skies further south towards the equator. In the western Pacific again, three little patches of tropical developments there, but really nothing to write home about at all, all slowly drifting towards the west. Cloud fizzling out here and there across the North Indian Ocean. Quite a few significant bits of weather moving through the Middle East there. And down towards the Southwest Indian Ocean, in particular the Mozambique Channel. This is sometimes where we see activity at this time of year. Well, I can say it's not today. It's extremely quiet, just a few scattered thunderstorms and small-scale ones at that. You can see both Narelle and 28P on this imagery here, looking at Australia from a very wide angle. And you can see Narelle just about reaching daylight and 28P drifting southwards. Here it is again on the left hand side of your screen now, 28P, and you can see some of it reaching the North Island of New Zealand as well at this point already. Checking in with sea surface temperatures right now, and they're looking pretty decent already for the Atlantic Ocean, 26 degrees and more across the whole of the Caribbean Sea and extending over parts of the Sargasso Sea and out over the open Atlantic in the central Atlantic. In the eastern Pacific, looking even better, 28 degrees in quite a few spots, and even one or two spots off Panama and Costa Rica, getting up to 30 degrees Celsius already at this early stage of the year. In the western Pacific, a big chunk of 30 degrees Celsius waters as well, not too uncommon though, way towards the east, towards the Marshall Islands, 28 degrees, extending all the way to the Philippines, 26 degrees up to the coast of Taiwan now. The Australian region around Narelle, temperatures are pushing close to 30 degrees Celsius and probably a little bit above that, so things looking really good for that storm, of course, and every chance that it will take full advantage of that. Temperatures drop quite quickly once it rounds the corner at Exmouth. Compared to average, it's around normal actually for where Narelle is right now, although it has left a trail of quite below average temperatures behind it. 28P, for what it's worth, is over slightly above average temperatures at this point. Across the Pacific Ocean, the North Pacific that is, they're looking generally above average in the tropics. The Atlantic looking near average, a little bit warmer in the subtropics. Oceanic heat content hasn't really changed very much. That's probably because this graphic hasn't updated, at least not on my end here, but not much has really been changing, but generally those energy levels will be increasing throughout the next few months. Western Pacific looking quite good already. East Pacific also has one little spot that's looking good. Southern Hemisphere also here you can see an area extending into the Coral Sea, but mainly out over the equatorial South Pacific, extremely high energy values, but some parts of the Coral Sea also benefiting. Well, checking in with the computer models, this is GFS out to 5 days, and you can see here it forecasts those red areas there. That denotes major hurricane equivalent conditions. That's category 3 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, category 4 on the Australian scale, and then it slams into the coast there, close to Exmouth according to this forecast. There it is, pretty much directly over the peninsula actually, and down towards the southeast, watching close to Perth there. They do get storm force winds, and that is probably the worst case scenario out of any of the models, the GFS, looking like 45 to 50 mile per hour winds, maybe up to 80 kilometers per hour that is. That's 28P there, brushing into New Zealand. It actually makes landfall near the southern part of the South Island, very mountainous on that western coast. And look at the big bulk of storm force winds there in the greens, and maybe even hurricane force briefly there just before it reaches the coast of New Zealand. So things getting pretty hairy there, and another system following through behind it as well, non-tropical. And this is the rainfall expectations over the next 7 days from Narelle and how it impacts Western Australia. Well, near the landfall zone, those rainfall amounts are getting quite high, up towards 300 millimeters of rain, 300 millimeters there. And towards Perth, we're looking at possibly totals up towards 60 or 70 millimeters in total, according to this latest forecast model. Areas along the coast, Karratha, are getting up above 200 millimeters there as well over the next 7 days. Clearly, you can see the track of the storm and indeed each eye wall in that big phase of the storm early on in this period. In the longer range, that's days 6 to 10, we're looking dead center over the Indian Ocean for a potential system developing there. We have actually marked that as a 10%. It didn't appear on our graphic, but there it is, drifting southwards, potentially becoming a tropical storm, quite a large one actually, but not very strong by the looks of things, already losing its composure towards the end of that 10-day period. Look again a little bit more closely now. Won't be a threat to any land areas. It's very far away from Rodrigues there. That's the closest point to land. Not much else to look at, so we'll just take a gander at what happens to Narelle. Becomes a very large extratropical cyclone, and then in tandem with another extratropical cyclone becomes an even larger system, and some of its effects reach the coast of Antarctica. Whether you can attribute that to actually being Narelle at that point, or whether it completely loses its identity, is another question for those extratropical cyclone experts. Check out our store page for Force 13 related merch, as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request by you. Also, if you like our work, please check out our YouTube memberships. Check the join page on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/force13/join. Well, let's take a look into the fantasy range then. This is day 11 to 16. That cyclone continues and becomes very frontal later on. Some of its effects might even reach the southwestern tip of Australia. And behind that, in the northern part of the Indian Ocean there, just off the coast of Java, Indonesia, actually, another system forming in the very late period of that run. That is getting towards the end of the first week of April. And that becomes a substantial cyclone. In fact, let's just get a zoom in on that very closely. And it reaches, I always forget which island is which there, it's either Christmas Island or the Cocos Keeling Islands, and off it goes. Goes straight through those islands. There's another system that forms there, a small one off to the east of American Samoa, way out over the South Pacific, hurricane equivalent there, and not moving very much, and then another system moving through there, through Vanuatu, out into the Coral Sea, as a very large wind field on that southern and western side, and quite powerful as well, probably a category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson scale there, with some pretty powerful winds. That, of course, is very, very long range. However, neither of those may form, or perhaps both. On this day, it was March 25th, 1982, where we had quite a powerful typhoon reaching the coast of the Philippines, quite far south as well. It was about to impact Mindanao. Typhoon Nelson peaking as a 130 mile per hour Category 4 storm. We also had Cyclone Justine off the coast of southwestern Madagascar, holding on as a Category 1 after earlier peaking briefly, just slightly stronger than that as a mid-range Category 1, about to lose a lot of its strength as it loses those sea surface temperatures down there. But Nelson was the main feature on this day many, many years ago. I can't even count, 44 years ago. On this day, back to today, I should say, the Atlantic naming list is one that we'll be dreading, of course, after last time. Arthur is the first name. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Amanda. And in the Central Pacific, the next name is Lala. 28P becomes our 23rd storm of the year so far in 2026. The next name in the Western Pacific is Sinlaku. And in the North Indian Ocean, it will be Arnab. We are still code orange for the potential impacts from Cyclone Narelle, which is our second highest state of readiness. In the Australian region, the next name is Oran. In the Southwest Indian Ocean, it's Indusa. And in the South Pacific, it's Vayanu. We'll be back with another tropical weather bulletin tomorrow night.